We have these personalities or people that we're surrounded with that stimulates exactly what you're saying. Jah is outside yourself. The supreme being is outside yourself. God is outside yourself. Right? You know, I'm the sole source of your information. I can't be wrong. You got to listen to every exact thing I say, not even challenge or question what doesn't make sense to you. That is it. Period. Yeah. All right? But what happens is that then it's strengthened by culture. Understanding there's a word it's supported. Right? There's a word called the meme effect, M-E-M-E, which means you transport that same ideology and it transfers on and on and on. That's why we keep seeing the same thing go on and on, because no one stops the trend. Because of the meme effect. That's a psychological and sociological effect. And some of us understand, you know people that's in prison, that's called recidivism. Right? Because you're in hostage to your own mind, that you cannot break your own cycle, your own pattern of behavior, your thoughts, or the paradigm that exists inside your mind. You can unlock your own grid because the very answer you think is outside yourself when it's inside you. All right? And so what happens is culture, what it does is it makes the trends addictive. That's why people do it. That's why people embrace it. Okay? All right? Go ahead.
Just what Frida was saying about, and you as well, about having a thinking child. Culturally, we're taught black families do this, white families do this. That's all, you know. And
yes.
If you don't do this, then you're not black.
Yeah,
if you only do this, then, you know, that's white. You know, white.
Right.
And you look sometimes when you come outside of yourself and you open your eyes to other, like, wow, your child is a good, respectable child. They didn't get beat. Like, you just talk to them and told them to think for themselves, and that's white though. You know, black people don't do that.
Right.
So just getting away, I think, culturally from some of those, just shifting your mind. You know,
shifting your mind.
Must we be? You know, when I've had to discipline my children, I'm like, y'all acting like slaves right now, and I'm like the master, and I don't appreciate
right.
it. You know, having that conversation with them, just, you know, culturally shifting your mindset. It's not about black, it's not about white. It's about universal thought and just being open.
Universal thought. That's interesting. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to share some more things that add on to this, and then we're going to take like a pause. I have people live streaming, so that way they can kind of follow what we got going. This is nice. So keep the thoughts going. Okay. Also, I want you to look at your thing. We're talking about the structural channeling of unforgiveness. All right. Now you look at it, you got law and order. We all know about law and order. You have the economy, you have social order, you have the political order, you have the spiritual order, you have the individual, right? You have the mental, you have the family, you have the community, you have the nation, okay? And so you look at law and order, you know, and a lot of us can attest to think about Trayvon Martin, a whole bunch of other different type of cases that, you know, that there's a replica of the law, and we can see bias in legislation and policies, right? There's also things encoded in the laws that we have in the land. Sometimes it's bias, it's favoring one particular group versus the other group. But unfortunately, I thought you said something.
No.
You know, and that's what goes on. I mean, there's certain laws that are passed to favor one group versus the other group. And so what happens is when we don't understand those things, it works. We already know it works against us. But when you present it, people think you're being, controversial or whatever, because you're challenging. But what happens is when you have biased policies, you have a warped conscience. Now check this out. So a lot of times, so you can look at the state of the nation. We have a warped conscience overall. The things that we engage in, the things that we do. The things we don't stand for that we say we stand for. Right? But the reason why that is existing there because it's unforgiveness. All this stuff is showing you that these are different faces of unforgiveness. Right? And so we have a warped conscience. And you see injustice. Right? The economy, restricted opportunities. Inflation, high taxes. The result you get is it encourages greed and manipulation. Right? I gotta get mine. I'm gonna get mine. You gotta get yours. You see what I'm saying? And we disregard collective economics a lot of times. Right? Then you look at the social order, we see classism. Come on in, sis. We have classism. Now, a lot of us know we got classism going on, right? You have racism, classism. Any ism is a division. Okay? And so what you have is, you also have a subtle caste system that exists that we have going on, right? And that subtle caste system, what it does, it brings in hatred and division. That's another face of unforgiveness. Hey, Lily. That's another face of unforgiveness. Is that the first one? Oh, okay. All right, so that's another face of unforgiveness. Then you have, the political order. I switched over that. You have inequalities and favoritism. You have inequalities and favoritism. Everybody agrees you see a lot of inequalities going on, right? And favoritism. So what does that breed? Mistrust. Right? We are saturated with double meanings when we get political information. It's hard to take something at face value. So what it does, it breeds mistrust. Okay? And in the day, it leads us into unforgiveness. All right? These are things how it's being channeled. Okay? Also, you have the spiritual order. And I want you to think about this real quick, because one of the methods is it convinces you into self-deception. I'm on page 2, talking about how unforgiveness is channeled. It convinces you into self-deception. We just got done breaking that down. That God is outside yourself. Is that true? No. But do people believe that? Yes. Some people, I'll be saying it right there, will probably be opposed to it. But you're convinced into a self-deception. So what happens is, we can see the results of it. I guarantee you, they'll become insipid. What that means is that you will lack the desire to want to refine yourself.
That's right.
That you disregard information or practices that will help you self-improve. That means you're insipid. Anyone that reads the scriptures, if that's when they talk about being a lost, that's what the lost means. It means you're insipid. That's what it means. And even in other traditions, they use different other words. But that's what it's talking about. That you have no inclination to want to improve yourself. You have no desire to self-reflect, to make your adjustment that you need to make. That's a result of the spiritual order projecting unforgiveness. And in the day is, you have what? Spiritual blindness, right? And here's something also, because everybody's talking about they praying, but your prayers are hindered. Because the universe, God cannot respond when there's too much of you in the way. Some people thinking about that. I understand that I'm going to go ahead and go to the scriptures. When Yeshua talked about it, asked him, teach us how to pray. He said, our Father which art in heaven. He acknowledged the supreme being, the existence of that, right? The cosmos. He talked about forgiveness. Forgive us as we forgive those debtors, right? It's also other places, and even in other traditions, in the Gita, and in other different other areas where it talks about when you have unforgiveness, you're hardened.
That's right.
Prayer is self-emptying. You can't self-empty yourself if you're not forgiving. So if you're unforgiving, you are harboring and you're stimulating yourself. And you're building upon your own ignorance, your own hurts, your own disappointments, wherever barrier that you have that's going on, that's blocking you from loving. That's your unforgiveness that's building, that's damming you up from your prayers.
All right.
Trust me. And so you don't see the results. People think they do. That's that self-deception thing again.
You'll see things outwardly.
Outwardly.
Like, oh, I'm growing, I'm blessed.
And all of a sudden, you hit this little point, and all of a sudden you are dry. Right? You feel like you have no water. You're thirsty. Because he said everything is outside instead of transforming on the inside. We'll get back into that. Mine's eternal when I said that. So okay. Also, mental. The mental part, you meditate upon offenses. Who's violated you? Who pissed you off? I'll tell you that. You know what I'm saying? 3 weeks later, you still think about that. I see them. You know what I'm saying?
3 years later.
3 years later, yeah. I can't stand away smoking a cigarette. You know what I'm saying?
20 years later.
20 years later, what happens is that's meditating upon offenses.
Like eating your own umbrella.
The result is health problems, low self-esteem, you know, all the mental. You know, I got something. Look, I see people in the healthcare industry, so they can. Y'all already know. Y'all can affirm, right?
Not able to manifest those things that you need. Not able to manifest your destiny.
Exactly. Now, think about the family. Now, of us in our home, we see people instigating our faults with each other.
Not in my family. Nowhere.
We got deflection going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, not me. But anyway, but the result is you see divorce, right? You see what I'm saying? Breakups. It's hard to find that loyalty, or we're questioning the loyalties. That's a face of unforgiveness. Now, I'm coming straight down home. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming straight down home. Because we don't realize that unforgiveness is all around us. And again, who is carrying it? How's unforgiveness here? It's in your heart. It's not outside yourself. If you're around a bunch of unforgiving people, it means you're around a bunch of people that got unforgiving hearts. And somehow, if you're comfortable there, that's a reflection on you. Because you ain't going to resonate.
What you not.
Right? All right, now think about it. So also, the community. We see people uncharitable with each other, right? So it's hard to see unity because, you know, love is wax cold. And then you also see people not being mindful of each other, okay? So we're right there. We're going to take a pause. We're going to take a pause. And everyone that's on the live stream will come right back as well. We're going to bring up another poet. We're going to bring a poetry speaking Keith Burbles. More. All right, so.